1 year ago, I made a decision that a lot of people in my local club thought was reckless. I decided to stop using routine chemical treatments in my loft completely. No more preventive rounds of metronidazole for canker. No more routine worming cycles. No more antibiotic courses at the start of every season. No more respiratory treatments given to the whole flock, whether they needed it or not. All of it gone. Replaced entirely with a natural herbal protocol that I had been developing and testing for several years before I felt confident enough to go all in. Today, 1 year later, I am going to tell you exactly what happened, what worked, what surprised me, what was harder than I expected, and what the results looked like at the end of a full racing season managed entirely on natural methods. I am not going to tell you chemicals are always wrong, or that natural is always better. I am going to tell you what I experienced, honestly, because that is the only thing worth sharing. Let me start by explaining why I made this decision in the first place. It was not ideological. I did not wake up one morning and decide I wanted to be a natural fancier. It was practical. Over several years of keeping pigeons, I had noticed a pattern that troubled me. Every spring, I would do a preventive round of canker treatment, the whole flock, whether any bird showed symptoms or not. Every autumn, a worming cycle. Twice a year, a respiratory treatment. And yet year after year the same problems kept coming back. The canker treatment would clear things up for a few weeks, and then canker would reappear. The respiratory treatment would seem to help, and then 2 months later, I would have birds coughing again. I was on a treadmill. Treating, recovering, treating again. And the birds never seemed to build genuine resistance. Their immune systems were doing less and less work because I was constantly intervening with chemicals before the immune system had a chance to respond. The final thing that pushed me to make the change was reading about antibiotic resistance and drug resistance in livestock and poultry. What I read made uncomfortable sense. Every time you give a medication to a flock, even when it works, you create selection pressure. The strongest, most resistant pathogens survive. Over time, those pathogens become harder to kill. The drugs that worked perfectly 10 years ago work less well now because the pathogens have adapted. I looked at my own flock and I thought, I have been medicating these birds routinely for years. What am I building? Am I building a healthy flock, or am I building a flock that is dependent on medication and increasingly resistant to it? That question changed my thinking completely. So I stopped, and I replaced everything with a system built around 5 core natural tools: apple cider vinegar, oregano oil, garlic, thyme, and chamomile. Each one chosen for specific reasons based on what the research says and what years of smaller scale use in my loft had shown me. Let me tell you about each one and how I use it. Apple cider vinegar became the daily foundation of everything. 1 tablespoon per liter of drinking water, given 2 to 3 times per week as a baseline, and every day during race season or any period of higher stress. The reasoning is simple. Most pathogens that cause problems in pigeons, Trichomonas, E. coli, various bacterial infections, thrive in a neutral to slightly alkaline gut environment. Apple cider vinegar acidifies the gut. It makes the environment hostile to these pathogens without harming the bird. It also improves the absorption of minerals and nutrients from feed. And it keeps the drinkers themselves cleaner between washes because the acidic environment discourages bacterial growth. After 1 full year of using it this consistently, I can tell you the gut health of my flock is visibly better than it was on chemical routines. Droppings are firmer and more consistent. Digestion is cleaner. And I have had significantly less canker than in any previous season. Oregano oil became my primary antiparasitic and immune support tool. 2 to 3 drops per liter of water, given twice per week. Oregano oil contains 2 compounds, carvacrol and thymol, that have been studied extensively for their antimicrobial and antiparasitic effects. Carvacrol in particular has been shown to disrupt the cell membranes of a wide range of pathogens, including Trichomonas gallini, the organism that causes canker. I do not give oregano oil every day because it is potent, and I want the birds to have periods without it. But twice a week, consistently, through the whole year, this has become one of the things I trust most in my natural system. The birds accept it well. There is a strong smell in the water at first, but they drink it without problem after a few minutes. Garlic I use once per week as a maintenance dose. Half a clove of crushed fresh garlic per liter of water. Garlic contains allicin, which is a broad-spectrum natural antimicrobial. It has been used in traditional pigeon keeping for generations, and there is a reason for that. It works. I also increase the garlic dose at the beginning of a racing season, in the week before long races, and any time I bring a new bird into the loft. Fresh garlic is significantly more potent than dried or powdered garlic because allicin forms when the cell walls are crushed and degrades over time. I always use fresh, always crush it myself, and I give it within an hour of preparation for maximum effect. Thyme I use primarily as a tea, brewed strong, cooled completely, and given as the only drinking water for 1 day per week. Thyme is one of the oldest medicinal herbs in the world, and its antimicrobial properties are extremely well documented. It contains thymol, the same compound found in oregano oil, as well as carvacrol and a range of other active compounds. For pigeons specifically, thyme is outstanding for respiratory health. The airways of racing pigeons are under constant pressure. Dust, pathogens from other birds at the race point, weather changes, the physical stress of sustained flight. Thyme given as a tea clears the respiratory tract, soothes inflamed tissue, and provides direct antimicrobial protection against the organisms that cause respiratory infections. I give thyme tea every week through the racing season, and twice a week during any period where I see early respiratory signs in any bird. Chamomile I use more selectively than the others. Chamomile tea given as drinking water on the 2 days before a race, and for 3 days after any particularly long or stressful race. Chamomile does something very specific that took me a while to fully appreciate. It calms the nervous system without sedating. A pigeon that is stressed, genuinely stressed, running elevated cortisol, burning energy and anxiety, is a pigeon that is not performing at its physical peak. The stress response in pigeons is real and has measurable effects on race performance. Birds that arrive at the race point calm and settled navigate more efficiently than birds that arrive anxious and agitated. Chamomile in the 2 days before a race helps the birds rest more deeply, store energy more effectively, and arrive at the basket in a better mental state. After 1 year of using it consistently before races, I am convinced it makes a difference. Not just in health, in actual race results. So that is the system. Apple cider vinegar as the daily foundation. Oregano oil twice a week for antiparasitic and immune support. Garlic once a week for broad antimicrobial protection. Thyme tea once a week for respiratory health. Chamomile before and after stressful races. And underneath all of it, the thing that makes everything else possible, daily hygiene. Every drinker cleaned every single day. Every feeder cleaned every day. The loft floor kept dry. Ventilation checked and maintained. New birds quarantined for 2 weeks before entering the main loft. Because no herbal protocol in the world compensates for a dirty, overcrowded, poorly ventilated loft. The herbs support health. The hygiene protects it. You need both. Now let me tell you what actually happened over the year. The first thing I noticed within the first few weeks was that I was anxious. I had been so accustomed to the reassurance of chemical treatments that removing them felt genuinely uncomfortable. Every time I saw a bird that looked slightly off, I had a moment of doubt. Should I treat? Is this the thing that tips into a serious problem because I did not medicate? That anxiety was real, and I think anyone making this transition would feel it. What helped was systematic daily observation. Because I was watching more carefully than ever, picking up birds regularly, checking throats, monitoring weights, watching individual behavior, I was catching small issues early. And early is where natural treatment is most effective. This is what 13 years and 1 very deliberate year of natural management has taught me. The herbs work. The hygiene is essential. The observation is everything. And the birds, when you give them a clean environment, a strong natural support system, and the respect of daily attention, they will show you what they are capable of. Subscribe to Champion Pigeons for weekly videos on natural pigeon care, racing preparation, and real loft experience. Every week, something from 13 years of keeping and racing pigeons. Comment below, have you tried natural treatments in your loft? What has worked for you and what has not? I read every single comment. See you in the next video. The canker situation was the one I watched most carefully because canker had been the most persistent problem in my loft under the previous chemical system. In the first year of natural management, I had 2 birds that developed mild canker. 2. In previous seasons I had been treating the whole flock preventively and still seeing canker reappear regularly. 2 individual birds showing mild early canker, both of which responded to the intensified natural treatment protocol within 10 days. No chemical treatment needed. No spread to other birds. The combination of daily ACV in the water, clean drinkers, and the twice-weekly oregano oil had kept the trichomonas load low enough throughout the flock that it only found a foothold in 2 birds who were already under additional stress from other factors. The respiratory health surprised me most. In previous seasons I had always had some level of background respiratory issues in the flock, a bird coughing ear, a bird with slight discharge there. Nothing dramatic, but never completely clean either. By mid-season, in my first natural year, the loft was the cleanest respiratory-wise I had ever seen it. I attribute most of this to the weekly time tea and a better overall immune function from the consistent ACV and oregano oil protocol. The birds' immune systems were working because I was not constantly suppressing the need for them to work. Race performance, and I know this is what most people want to know about, was the best I had seen in 3 years. I want to be careful about how I say this because there are many variables in racing performance. Weather, race routes, competition, breeding, training. I cannot say with certainty that the natural protocol caused better performance. What I can say is that my birds arrived at race season in better physical condition than they had been in the previous 2 years. Their form built earlier in the season. Their recovery between races was faster. They held condition better through the second half of the season, when fatigue typically starts to show. Whether that is because of the natural protocol specifically, or because a generally healthier flock simply performs better, I think the answer is both. The one area where I had to be honest with myself about the limits of natural treatment was a single bird, a 3-year-old hen, who developed what I believe was liver involvement from canker in early summer. She lost weight rapidly despite the natural protocol. Her droppings turned yellowish. She became lethargic. I recognized these as signs of internal canker that had progressed beyond what herbal treatment could reach. I gave her a course of metronidazole. She recovered. She went on to race twice more that season. Natural treatment has limits, and I knew this going in. For that bird on that day, the chemical treatment was the right call, and I made it without hesitation. A good fancier uses the best tool available for the specific situation. That day the best tool was metronidazole. I used it, and then I went back to my natural protocol for the rest of the flock. 1 year later, I have no intention of going back to routine chemical treatment cycles. The evidence from my own loft, the reduced canker, the cleaner respiratory health, the better race season condition, the birds that are maintaining their own immune defenses rather than depending on medication, all of it tells me I am going in the right direction. The birds look better. They feel better in my hands. The loft smells cleaner. And I am spending less money on medication than at any point in my history with the sport. If you are thinking about making this transition, I want to give you one piece of honest advice. Do not do it all at once under pressure. Do not decide 3 weeks before your biggest race of the season to stop all chemical treatment and switch to herbs. Make the transition in the off-season. Learn the natural tools gradually. Watch your birds carefully. Trust your observation. And be honest enough with yourself to use conventional treatment when a situation genuinely calls for it. Natural and conventional are not enemies. They are tools. Use them wisely.